Justin Kurzel. Next, we have Nicholas Hoult. And last but certainly not least, Jurnee Smollett. I mean, after watching the film, I actually do understand that reaction because Nick is actually a lovely person and nothing like Bob Matthews in this project, and that's what acting is for. Jude, I'm going to start with you, in part just because you're closest to me. But also, your company produced this project, and this is a film that is based on this kind of, as it says here, this chilling true story, but it's one that a lot of people, I mean, I had no basis of knowledge for this movie when I saw it a few months ago. What was it about this subject matter that made you so intrigued and want to put your name on it on both sides of the camera?
Just the clear potential in the script. Like you, I didn't know this story. I obviously was well aware of this issue, of this problem, and it was clear that there were these reverberations with current day issues, and yet at its heart, I loved also that Zach had given the potential for it to be a gripping genre piece, and it reminded me somewhat of the films of that era of the 80s and 70s kind of elevated genre type movie. And when Justin got on board, it just suddenly felt like the complexity was there, and yet we also had a way of telling it propulsively. I just thought was going to be, I hope, dynamic kind of experience. Yeah, so it's all you can look for really is potential and curiosity, and this had that in spades.
Justin, for you, when you did kind of read the script and then sign on, what kind of did you see as fodder for that propulsion? How did you want to translate what was there in Zach Balin's script?
Well, it was, it had a sort of momentum and a cat and mouse and kind of two very different points of view that were sort of chasing and following each other. But it was trying to ground it, like even though there was sort of something elevated in the way that Zach had sort of written it, it was sort of how to ground it and how to bring that sort of tone and period to it, and explore as much as possible in a very quick kind of period of time the characterization. Like what I really loved about it was you were just sort of landed into a story. It didn't have a huge amount of exposition. These characters were really kind of revealing themselves within the action, the momentum, and the kind of detail of the scenes, which I found really refreshing. Usually there's just so much sort of behind, the characters in regards to backstory and so forth. And I sort of loved how the sort of plot and the events were really leading a lot of the choices that the characters were making.
Nick, for you had obviously worked already with Justin before. So what about not only this character and the script, but also Justin's filmmaking technique? Were you most interested in kind of combining those two experiences?
Yeah, I was lucky. I got to work with Justin, how many years ago was it? 3, 4? No, 6 years ago. 7 years. It was 6 years ago. We did True History of the Kelly Gang together, and I played an evil bastard in that as well. And so when I got the call from Justin about this one, I was like, oh, good, nice.
Have I got a role for you?
But in all seriousness, the script, I mean, for all the reasons that Jude and Justin were saying, the story was captivating and felt like it was timely and should be told, and a propulsive cinematic experience on the page, but not necessarily a character that would have been an easy one to commit to playing under different circumstances. But because I truly had a brilliant experience working with Justin the first time and loved his process, and I thought I'd seen his films before that, and I thought I was going to go into this really dark, horrible world. But he manages, even whilst showing those terrible sides of humanity, in kind of in a way that's not, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't judge in many ways. You're not judgmental in your directing, and I love that about his films. Yeah. So it was like one of those things where I felt like if you could do that with these characters, and I'd feel safe doing it with him. So that was the main appeal, I think, in exploring it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is a kind of an important thing when you have a story like this one where, obviously this is people perpetrating.
So I did with Jamie Foxx was another time where she was written a man, and they were like, read this and just think about it being a woman. I think with Carney, one of the things we talked about, Justin, myself, Zach, Jude, was really just about the sacrifice that this situation, these type of cases cost folks who are involved with it, right? How personal does it become? I went and interviewed a few former special agents, women of all kinds, and immediately when I read the script, I Googled Black women in the FBI and found that it wasn't until 1976 that a Black woman was even serving in this position as a special agent. So that initially told me, well, if a woman was in this position of power, she would have been one of the few. If a Black woman was in this position of power, she would have been one of the only. And so what does that do to your mentality? Is it a lonely position? Yes. How'd she get there? Well, she had to be the best, or one of the best. And so in interviewing some of the special agents, we asked them a lot of things. And one of the things I love so much about Justin is he just is so hungry to find authenticity and find truth. I mean, when I tell you the first day on set, the makeup team, they didn't like put a lot of makeup on me. It wasn't like a lot. But I walked on set and Justin was like, take it off. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go, and it was just so freeing to not have a director who's expecting me to play a position, but is expecting me to help be a vessel for the truth. And it's freeing and it's empowering, and we played, and yeah, it was an awesome experience for a number of reasons, but yeah, this was not about gender. It was truly just about relationships. Terry and Carney, him being my mentor, now coming to me and needing information and me loving it. That the power dynamics are shifting and we don't know what to do with that. And he thinks he could still veer off and be the leader, and I'm constantly trying to pull you back. It was a lot of fun to bring different dynamics of the relationship to the story.
I mean, Terry did have...
It was already there, but I know that Justin and I really like the idea that you felt the sort of physical damage, the spiritual damage, the sort of the life that's in ruins because of his abilities, weirdly, because of his ability to lose himself in a job, and this idea that that's what it takes. But the relationships and how they all sort of rose to the surface and are very much the kind of infrastructure of the whole piece is very much because of Justin's work and what Justin sees in the drama and the potential of these relationships. I remember him saying to me early on, you got to really take Ty under your wing. Ty Sheridan plays Jamie. And that made sense, but what you're talking about is how there are sort of mirrors of these different mentor roles, but the same of course on the other side within the Silent Brotherhood and the way people respond to Bob Matthews, and to spread that a little further. I mean, Justin should really talk about this, but to spread that a little further, it's also how we fit into our kind of communities and the family around us, and how that enables, enforces, or sometimes denies you from being who you want to be or who you are.
And to that idea, when you mentioned the other side of it, I mean, Justin, it was also a choice that you made to kind of keep these two guys apart. until that first real meeting that we see them out in the woods, this question of
Absolutely, and we knew that it was going to. The embellishments and the additions that we made helped the story, and we talked about that. Like how can he now contrast to Matthews, and how can he be similar? And so the damage that I was talking about, the past, the cost of the past, his career that's sort of hanging on him, that was taken from actually one of the special agents that was on the real case. The marriage, actually, we added. The heart condition, I think we added, and the pills. And I remember going in thinking, because it was him trying to put his life back, not back together, but sort of retiring almost, that, you know, right up till nearly with us shooting. In fact, it may have even been once we'd started, because we did that, remember we did that sort of free test day, which we ended up using some of, me out in the, and I had this idea that maybe he should try, he's giving up smoking, that's why I was chewing gum, not drinking, and then I think day one he went, have a smoke. And I didn't stop, it was just keep smoking. But even little choices like that, you know, the idea that he was probably one of those guys thinking, yeah, I better stop, I better stop smoking soon, you know, or this will be my last drink, you know. Yeah, even those little sort of considerations and details, I think, helped.
I mean, those are the
in my mind is that people, I think, really appreciate this kind of, I used the term before, but this sort of elevated genre. It feels like it was a kind of film that 15, 20 years ago was a studio film. These were their kind of, you know, crowd-pleasing tentpole movies, and I'm sure a lot of you here, you know, grew up watching them. I certainly did, and they inspired me to be an actor. And I loved going to, you know, movies by William Friedkin, you know, were references that Justin often made. And to me, it's been rewarding to remember that people enjoy this kind of film. And if anything, going forward, I hope to make more of them, and encourage the studios to make more of them.
You know, I think the approach from the storytellers from the beginning was, you know, really about finding the relationships in the procedural. It's not about us making something about a whodunit, right? And cat and mouse. This is about how is it personal for everyone. And I think Zach is just such a fantastic screenwriter, you know, because he makes it really messy. And in terms of, like, you know, your question about, you know, how has it affected us in our approach in the future, I tend to feel that, for me personally, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me personally, characters and stories come to me because I need to exercise something in myself, and they always lend to the one after in some way, in a very odd, like, trajectory for me personally. I don't know if you guys have this experience where you feel like, oh, the research that I did there, or that thing, it might not have been the thing that I needed for that role, but I clocked it, and then, you know, I just wrapped a TV show for Apple where I play, not an FBI agent, but I play a detective. And so much of the research that I did for this actually helped me understand someone who runs into the fire versus someone who runs away. So much of my characters in the past have been the people that are like, all right, I'm being chased, I'm running through the woods, I'm bloody, and the monster's following me, right? The monster's chasing after me. And it's a different part of your brain to access when you go, oh no, I'm the person chasing the monster. And that's not me. That's not Jurnee. I'm running out of the fire. I'm running away from the bad guys. I'm not running to them. And so I have such reverence for folks who choose that position in life. You know, folks who go and serve in the military, or folks who go and serve, you know, as a detective or a special agent. I mean, they're going, there's danger, let me run into it. And so I gained personally a deeper respect, a deeper appreciation, a deeper reverence for that part of your brain, because you have to shut down that fight or flight instinct, and the courage is not that you're not afraid. It's the courage that you do it despite your fear. And so I think I have a much deeper appreciation for folks like
It's
that.
funny, Jurnee just saying that, because for this character there was something where from doing Mad Max I learned a lot about warriors, believing that they were going to go to Valhalla or whatever if they died in battle and stuff, and that was one of the discussions we had about Bob kind of early on, Justin and I, about how I'd play him a little bit, was this idea that he'd kind of already decided his fate and was so committed that I think that was partly where the stillness and his drive and belief came from, that he had already drank the Kool-Aid in that respect. So it all kind of overlaps, and I mean, working with Justin, that's the process that I love. So I'll carry what I learned from that into the next thing, and from working with Jurnee and Jude as well, and watching them as well. That was the thing that I was most impressed by seeing the movie, because I didn't get to do many scenes with them. So then I got to see like half of this movie, and being like, damn, they're killing it. This is so good.
I was so surprised that you were like a really nice guy. We traveled to Venice together. Like we had a flight that was delayed. It was like a 19-hour flight or something. It was like crazy. We were stuck in the airport in Germany, and I got to know him. He's a really nice guy.
I feel like the person that needs to be reminded about that most is Justin, because I think you need to find him like a nice comedy or a rom-com or something after this.
I'm actually looking for one.